Hi Peter, or Peter, whichever way you pronounce your name. I'm sorry if I messed up with that, but here's your past life spread. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at where we are, what you did with the majority of your time, an important day with the relationship and feelings involved, and then another important day, the death and the lesson learned. And we'll get hints of time throughout. So what I'm going to do is just relay to you the images and impressions that I'm getting, and your job is going to be to try to make connections where you can from what we're going over here to your current life, and I'll try to help however I can. Alright? Okie doke. So, usually we start here, but I do want to mention that already laying this down, it feels like we're actually going very far back to possibly ancient, or what we consider ancient times. And we'll get to that in a second, but let's go to where we are. And here we have the Africa card. And obviously there's a lot of places in Africa, but it felt mostly pulled up north, and it felt like we're going to that corner where Egypt is, but it can even be like, it feels like it's like the corner of this continent, like the as north. Hold on. Wow, directions are not easy for me. Great, awesome. Northeast, the most northeast corner you can get in this continent. So look on a map and see where that might be and where we could be looking at, because I feel like we're going back to what we feel would be ancient times, or what we would consider ancient times. So I really can't give you like a time period with numbers, but it just feels that far back. So already what we can be connecting with, for example, would be something as small as, are you interested in ancient Egypt? Were you like in school, or now, does ancient Egypt pull at you? Or when you see photos of ancient, I want to say Egypt, but like ancient, even like, what's that other thing, like Mesopotamia or something, like back then in that region, was that an interest to you in school or today, or things like that? This can also speak to like ancient structures. Are you intrigued when you see ancient structures? Also, this is a male life, just so you know. So now let's go to what you did with the majority of your time. Here we have the laborer card. And a lot of times when we get Egypt with a laborer card, we've had like slaves, in this case, this is not the case here. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like we're actually looking at someone who's in the industry of construction, but it's more like on an architectural level, or more on like a management level, if they had that back then, than the person actually pulling the weight. So it almost feels like you are, let's say there's a main architecture or a main engineer or whatever that is. It feels like you're the right-hand man. So it feels like you're right there, and you're the person that is like directing everything and guiding things and telling people to put things into place, or even like overseeing the process. So it's not necessarily that you're doing the labor, even though it feels like this person here is more than capable of doing the labor, almost like they've done their fair share, and it's like it almost feels like quick climb of the ranks. Almost like, let's say you like, it's like what's it called? What they say, paying your dues. So it's like you had to do a quick paying your dues by like working a little bit with the labor, and then a quick climb of the ranks, and it feels something like you might have connections, like that kind of thing. Like, okay, you put your time in, you put your energy into learning the basics, and you're good at it, but ultimately you knew that you would eventually just be climbing the ranks and getting to this level. So we're looking at someone that is kind of like living a very comfortable life, or whatever comfortable means back then, but this isn't someone that's living in like a shack as a slave, or a hard laborer, or like very, very poor and just like working nonstop at something that isn't going to get them anywhere. There's something about building a reputation in what you're doing, so keep that in mind. and how you can be connecting with this. For example, could be even if you find yourself in the industry of engineering or construction, or if you find yourself in a career or a job where what you're good at is putting things into place, or the organization part or the management part, or you can be, this might showcase like you might be someone who people trust to put in charge, or people trust to like oversee something, whether, I mean, it could be like, you can even just be in corporate work or whatever you're doing, but you'd be good at being in charge of a group or in charge of a project. Like you'd make sure that you could get it done, or maybe you're confident in that, okay? I wouldn't say this person was like someone who put himself in the limelight, so to speak, like put himself out there, like being in front of the camera versus behind the camera. This job here is like pretty like medium. It's almost like if you had a boss here, your boss would be the person that everybody knew and everyone knew their name, and you would be like the person, like their I hate to say like personal assistant, but not personal assistant, because you had more weight than that. So people knew who you were, but you weren't in the limelight, if that makes sense. So only people like who knew the industry would know you. But outside of that, it was just like, otherwise not known as well, at least as well as like your boss, like that kind of thing. So how that can connect is, one, you might find that you're someone in this life who is always striving to make a name for yourself, or you're always striving to build your reputation, or you might be someone that finds that you're very ambitious because you want to like do something great or leave a legacy or be known for something. On the other hand, you could be someone who just doesn't care at all about that, and you just want to be happy and do what you do and not be known. You see, so you can make connections in like two extreme ways with this kind of stuff. So one way would be, because you've experienced what you're experiencing here, you come back wanting to continue, or because of what you experienced here, you come back wanting the opposite. So here we're seeing someone who is like very keen on keeping a reputation, upholding his reputation, doing well, that kind of thing. So that could transfer over to you currently. So if you find that you have those qualities, it would stem from here. So this would also be coming up, that if that speaks to you, this would be coming up to let you know that it's almost like a message of like, a message saying like, prioritize the right things. Like prioritize the right things as in, so it is important, of course, to be happy, and if like being ambitious and making a name for yourself and building a reputation and getting known, if that is what makes you happy and that's your priority, great. But if it's something where you find you're compromising other things like integrity or good relationships, or if you're finding you're compromising things in order to get ahead, you might want to reconsider, and you might want to just like take a step back and see what's truly important and what kind of feeds your soul versus what's feeding your ego. Okay? So like keep that in mind. So let's go to the next important day. By the way, I do want to say that what we're building here, it feels like you're working on something like it would be more like a palace versus like a statue. I know that sounds weird, but like it feels like we're working on something that is very like grand and almost like residential, almost for like aristocracy, or I don't know how they had it back then, but like kings or royalty or aristocracy, the higher ups. It's almost like they come to you or your boss or whoever it is to construct that. It feels more like it's about like serving like very wealthy people in this city, because it feels like a city, versus doing something like utilitarian, or like something where it's like public works or whatever that may be, if that makes sense. So keep that in mind as well, because that can also connect with you in that you might be someone that really appreciates architectural beauty versus very like pragmatic structures, if that makes sense. Or maybe you're someone that appreciates it. Basically, that's what it can speak to, is your appreciation for the engineering or architecture of certain things or buildings or stadiums or whatever it is, where they add something beautiful to something that doesn't necessarily need it. Like the add-ons, if that makes sense. So if you're intrigued by that, if your attention gets caught by that, that would make sense as well coming from here. And if not, that's fine, but that's just stuff that's coming up. So, first important day. This is the death card. So there's death in this place. So this usually means that we are witnessing a death. The relationship involved is the soulmate card. So soulmate doesn't always mean romantic. It can just mean someone that you are meant to be around or have met in your life, and it can last a day. Soulmates can, meeting a soulmate can last a day. It can last a lifetime, easy for me to say, or a month, whatever. And then the feelings involved is the betrayed card. So I'm just trying to see what we're looking at here as far as the death, the soulmate, and the betrayed card. Okay, so there's something that's coming up here that it feels like we're actually looking at your boss. If it, like the person that you work for, that you're the right-hand man to, it feels like that person is someone that you on a soul level were meant to be together with and work with, first of all. Because we come into this life with contracts, with our soul group, with people, like with other souls. Before we come in, we're like, hey, let's go down into this life together, and you do this so that I can learn this, and I'll do this so you can learn this. Like, we do that all the time with these people that we run into, or that we're family with, or friends, or whatever, or enemies with. We can even have, contracts with who we consider enemies, who on a soul level are just like our best friends, but they come in and they take the guise of enemies so that we can learn lessons from them. So keep that in mind, because I feel like that's kind of what's happening here. I feel like there's something having to do with you wanting to take over, and usually this card is usually a witness card, and what it's feeling like is that your involvement is actually a little bit more than just watching a death. It's almost like, due to your action or inaction, your boss, we're just going to call him your boss because I don't know what other word to use here, but your boss is killed. And the betrayal comes in as far as your action or inaction. And why I say action or inaction is because I feel like there's something like, it's not like you put a hit out on him, but it's almost like you learned information where you knew that he was in danger, and you did not say anything when you could have said something. So technically, it's not your fault. It's not like an intentional killing, but you intentionally withheld information that may have saved him in some way. So that's where we're seeing a betrayal card. So how this can connect to you is in your current life, if you're finding that you have problems with loyalty, whether it's you being loyal to others, or really it feels like more like other people being loyal to you. Like if you find that you have been consistently let down by people that you trusted or that you thought you can trust, if you've gone through those, if that's been a theme in your current life, it could be because of some karma playing out based on what happened here. And this could be coming up, if that's the case, this could be coming up really to let you know that you can let go of that and you can be done with that karma, and you don't have to keep seeing the theme anymore, because this would be coming up to allow you to know where it's coming from, if that makes sense. So it's like once we acknowledge the root cause of things going on in our life, it helps us process what's really happening, like on a soul level, and then we can let it go. Because karma now, in this period of time that we're living in right now, karma is being let go of. Like it no longer is attached to us if we're aware of that fact. And I really highly encourage you to look into that. Like Google, whatever you gotta Google, go into any forums, like spiritual forums or whatever, Or you can actually look up Dolores Cannon. I would definitely suggest looking up Dolores Cannon and reading some of her work and stuff like that. And you'll find that karma is no longer being, like, it's no longer in play. Especially people being born now, they don't bring in the karma anymore. They don't need to bring in the karma of past lives anymore, which is so cool and great. So whatever you're dealing with karmically, as far as if you find that in regards to this, you're feeling like you've had a theme in your life again of disloyalty or being betrayed at whatever level by friends or family or people you've trusted or colleagues, whatever it is, that doesn't need to happen anymore. And you can put it behind you because you can let go of the karma of it where it stems from here, if that makes sense. Also, I feel like this is being brought up to bring the information to the surface for you about what soulmates really are. Like recognizing that, again, enemies can technically be soulmates. And why that's so important is because forgiveness is such a huge key to progressing, developing, growing on many levels. And it's so hard to forgive people that we feel don't have our best interests in mind, right? So when you realize that certain people in your life that you don't really like, or certain people in your life that you feel like have it out for you or don't have your best interests in mind, it's so natural for us to feel like the same way or just like continue to despise them or hate them. But when you realize that they're just playing a role, like we are all playing a role in this life. And when you realize that your enemies are really just playing a role that you may have already like talked about prior to coming into this life, you'll be able to forgive that. You'll be able to step back, see the bigger picture, see the lessons you've learned from that person, even if they're total like assholes. Mind my French, sorry about that, but like even if they're total like bad people to you, if you're able to step back and see the lesson you've learned from them, even if the lesson is to never speak to them again or to remove yourself from their toxic energy, that's still a lesson, and it's something you can actually start to be grateful for and start to forgive them for, and that will help you progress and develop and grow in so many ways. So it's actually a good thing. And when you start seeing that as a good thing, that's an amazing lesson. So I feel like that would be coming up for you. That would be another reason why this would be coming up for you, if that speaks to you. And if not, that's fine, but I'm just letting you know what's coming up. So let's go to the next important day. Here's the trauma card. So we're looking at a trauma, and the trauma is going to involve the role of a spouse. And then the feelings involved are pride. So what is interesting, what's really coming through here is actually, because of the death of your boss and you being his right-hand man, what I see happening is your promotion. You take over his role. You not only take over his role, but what I feel like we are seeing here is that you marry his wife, his widow. So the widow and you have had a relationship before as friends. She's known you because of your close work with the husband, and because of the trauma of his death, you and the widow come together, and there's a marriage there. There's a union, and the feeling of pride in your promotion, in your, not just your promotion in work, but your promotion in society. You're now a married man, more established, more wealth, more reputation, more recognition. So we're seeing you really step up in society. And it's a very interesting feeling because of the feeling of achievement. And there's also this underlying feeling of knowing the achievement came because of your decision. So here's this feeling of being torn, because you know that because of your decision, you got yourself to where you are. But your decision also may have killed a man that you respected and that trusted you. So there's this torn feeling because this isn't, again, this is not completely your fault. You did not do the killing, but because of an omission, the killing was done. So there's a slight torn feeling, and there's also this feeling of going back and forth between taking responsibility and not taking responsibility for your action or inaction in this death. So you in your current life may still dance between those feelings of indecisiveness and decisiveness when it comes to certain things in your life. So you might find in your current life that you have problems making decisions, or that you take a long time to make decisions, and that you might have issues with being spontaneous. You might like have these weird spontaneous moments, or you might be scared of being spontaneous, if that makes sense. You see, so you can go from one extreme to another based on what we're looking at here. This can also speak to your relationship. Like, this can be coming up because of your relationships. You might find that you place a lot of weight in your relationships as far as like how they make you look. So you might feel like you're someone that needs to have like a partner in order to feel fuller or more established, or more, what's the word, like, you might interpret it as like lonely versus not lonely, but you might be someone that really thrives in having a relationship or a partner by your side, because it might make you feel more like, the word is like grounded or established, or like credible, I guess. Credible, that's what I want to say. Now, on the other hand, you might be it might be completely opposite, where you shy away from relationships, or you don't fully invest in your relationships just because of how much having your boss's wife as part of your growing empire, if that makes sense. Like, having a relation, like, you know how like just in higher society it's like you want that trophy partner on your arm, like, whether, you know, not just looks, but like elegance and intelligence, or just someone that makes you look good. So that's what I'm saying, is having a partner that makes you look good might mean a lot to you, which isn't shallow or anything. It's just, it might be, I'm saying it because it might be something that you have never even considered before, but that it's being brought up now for you to kind of take into consideration of what is valuable to you and what you prioritize. And it might not really mean anything except just something to keep on your radar as far as how you feel about yourself, what makes you feel worthy or fulfilled or content or happy. You know, can you be happy? Are you able to be happy and feel fulfilled on your own individually, or do you find that you require a partner to feel more fulfilled or satisfied in life in general? You know, just things like that. And if you do require a partner, that's fine. But this would also be coming up, if that's the case, this would come up as a message for you to make sure that you find something that makes you really happy by yourself. Like, even if you have the love of your life as your partner, it's important that you still do things just for your own satisfaction. You know, like whether it's like a hobby you have, or taking a class, or just doing something for you. Just make sure that you do something for you, and that it's not always attached to another person, if that makes sense. Yeah, and also don't forget to keep making connections where you can. Based on what I'm talking about here, you might be making connections in your own way about things that are not coming to my mind. So keep that in mind, to just keep making connections, okay? So let's go to the death card. Here's the disease card. So the disease or illness card, when I put this down, when I pulled it, what it felt like was a disease that, not a disease, it's not disease. It's an accumulation over the years of being around material that you breathe in. And over the years, I feel like it's done something to your like lungs that's given you hard breathing and fatigue and a chemical, almost like it's like if you smoke for a long time and then, you know, lung cancer comes around and you kind of know why, because you've been putting this crap in your lungs forever, you know? That's what it feels like. It feels like whatever was used back in these times to build with, or even if it's being around dust and sand, you know, just like day in and day out, breathing in unfiltered air is what it feels like. And then eventually it catches up with you, and there's something where it's like hard to breathe, and it eventually makes it so that you don't breathe, if that makes sense. So it feels like we're looking at someone who eventually just can't catch his breath and passes away. So how this can connect with you is, one, how this can continue on in your life would be, are you a smoker? Are you someone that has a habit where you're constantly putting something inside of your body? And it can be smoking, or it can be hookah or vaping, or even, I want to go so far as to say, even consumption, like food, like just something where you're constantly putting something in your body as a habit. And if not, that's awesome. But if you are, it could be stemming from here. This can also be connected with any breathing problems you might have. If you have a low immune system and you've gotten like pneumonia or the flu every winter, or colds, you know, like if you get things that are in your chest, like illnesses in the chest or problems with your chest, breathing kind of stuff, it could stem from here as well. So keep that in mind. Also, if you have like issues with your throat too, that I mean, the whole system where it goes from your mouth to your lungs, like to your chest, mouth to chest, any issues with that could stem from here. So keep that in mind, okay? Let's go to the lesson card. Now here we have self-love, and I feel like what we're looking at with the self-love lesson is like a dual aspect of self-love, because there's a healthy self-love and then there's an unhealthy self-love. And when I say unhealthy self-love, it's the time here that we're looking at where you are propelling yourself forward in your career and your life, but it's all based on something that isn't very integritous. There's, you know, obviously this day happened, this issue happened here, where we see the death of somebody that you considered a friend, or that considered you a friend, and we're seeing that based on your action or inaction, we're seeing wonderful things happening for you, but it's all based on something that isn't so wonderful, and that isn't what's the word, like positive or whatever, you know what I mean? So this self-love that you're showing yourself after the fact, of this self-love of a nice life and a wife and wealth and reputation, all this self-love, it's nice to experience on a human level, on a more like 2D level, you know, like just like a enjoying life kind of level. But as far as self-love at a soul level, you were, from here on out, not truthful with yourself, but also it's not just not being truthful with yourself, it was you censored yourself is what it was. So you censored your thoughts and a deep part of yourself that doubted your integrity, that felt responsible for what happened here, and every time that part of you came up again, you'd push it back and push it back and push it back. And in doing that, the self-love did not extend to your soul. It didn't extend, you did not show yourself self-love at a soul level, but you were able to show yourself self-love at a surface level with the accumulation of all these, you know, things that people enjoy, that help people enjoy their life on a surface level. Does that make sense? So I feel like this self-love card is coming up as a message in a way to tell you to make sure that you're prioritizing this go-round, this life, this current life, that you're prioritizing yourself, that you're prioritizing self-love at a soul level, which means allowing your inner thoughts, allowing even dark thoughts or uneasy thoughts, uncomfortable thoughts and feelings to have a voice in you, to not push yourself down. That can also speak about your emotions, to not push any emotions down, don't push things away because you may be intimidated or scared of feeling them or hearing those thoughts, or whatever's inside you, that kind of thing. Because by allowing them to have a voice and by listening to them and basically working through and processing things that are hard to process for a lot of people, you're showing yourself self-love, and this is the way to develop and grow and progress. So I feel like that is why this is coming up. It's always fun to enjoy the surface level of what life has to offer as far as wealth and adventure and travel and all the fun things to do as a human being. But self-love on another level, it's more important when it comes to working with your innermost thoughts and emotions that a lot of people have trouble processing and listening to and working out. Because it doesn't happen overnight. It does take time. But because this person here pushed it back so much, it's very likely that you're dealing with that in your current life, where you may be holding things and pushing things back that really need to be worked on and listened to and processed, okay? So anyway, there's your past life. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you were able to make some connections, and thanks for letting me read you.